Welcome to Drunk TV. Everybody, it's the Drunk TV Podcast, drunktvpodcast.com. Happy to be along with you. Unbelievable. It's our fourth week and something very special this week. This week, we are doing our very first, what we like to call the Juice Box Edition. Why do we call it that? Because we're going to go back in time and we're going to revisit, instead of an old regular TV show, a retro TV show, we are going to visit an old retro cartoon TV show. And before we get into what we're doing, I have to introduce my co-host this week. Everybody, it's Wesley. Wesley, how's it going?
Good.
Great to have you here. And the reason we have Wesley, who happens to be my nephew, is A, to give Dell a break so he can take a little vacation, and also because Wesley's 10 years old. So Wesley gives us that kid perspective. So this week, excited to share with you the very first episode of Pac-Man. That's right, Pac-Man, the 1982 cartoon series that was based on the video game. Wesley, did you ever play the video game?
Actually, yes, I did.
Do you like the video game Pac-Man?
Yes, but it's really hard.
I played Pac-Man first on the Atari 2600 system, which was a home computer version, but it was super popular in the arcades, and I think I was about 6 years old when Pac-Man came out, maybe 5 or so, there in the early 80s. And so I'm not going to talk a lot about Pac-Man, the video game, because we're talking about the cartoon. So the Pac-Man animated series was made by Hanna-Barbera, the classic studio Hanna-Barbera.
Who made Scooby-Doo, which became really famous?
That's right. It made tons of cartoons. And by now, by the 1980s Hanna-Barbera cartoons, they were kind of in their groove. They were just cranking out all kinds of stuff. And Pac-Man ran from 1982 to 1983. It was the very first cartoon that was based on a video game. So any cartoon that you've ever seen on TV that's based on a video game, the very first one ever was Pac-Man. Is that unbelievable? So, like, you know, you've seen Super Mario Brothers, you've seen all kinds of other cartoons, but it was Pac-Man that was the very, very first one. And so this first episode, well, first of all, a little bit about the series, I guess. Basically, Pac-Man and his wife, and they have a cat.
And a kid.
They got a cat, a dog, and a little baby called Pac-Baby. They live in Pac-Land. And
there's so much Pacs around here.
Exactly. Everything starts with a P, and everything's shaped like a sphere. Everything's like a round ball. Whether it's the buildings, the cars, the trees, everything's got a kind of a ball shape to it in Pacland. The way that the episodes worked, at least in this first season, because we just watched the first episode of season 1, and the way that they did it back then was there's actually 2 episodes in the episode. So it's split into 2. So there's like a mini episode followed by a second mini episode. The very first one was called Presidential Pac-Nappers, the title of the first episode. And by the way, the writer of Pac-Man for the first season was a guy named Jeffrey Scott. He wrote all of season 1 and the Christmas special, according to research that I found online.
Quick thing I found is that in the episodes, they said that he was like the security person for the forest.
That's a good note you made there, because I got that in my notes too, because I think one of the ghost monsters mentions Pac-Man as being the head of security for the Pac Forest.
Yes, that's
and the Pac Forest, of course, is where all the power pellets grow on these trees. And for whatever reason, the ghost monsters are after these power pellets.
And they're just called ghosts in the game, but I guess Pac-Man calls them ghost monsters.
Before that, though, before the episode even starts, I wanted to talk a little bit about the theme song when it starts. And one thing that I noticed, I had to go back to the original video game, the arcade game, but that little background, the synthesizer back again, yeah, that's as best as I can do. But that's the sound of the arcade game. When you play the arcade game,
when he opens his mouth, opening.
Yeah, well, I think it's just constantly in the background. Yeah, when Pac-Man's moving, you're right. Yeah, probably when
has to make that sound if he keeps going
right in the arcade game. So I think it's cute how they actually bring that sound from the arcade game into the theme song of this cartoon. Which, by the way, this episode aired September 25th, 1982. Presidential Pac-Nappers. Everything has a round shape. We start with Pac-Man. He's being chased by the ghost monsters. They just throw it right in there. These ghost monsters...
They turn purple to blue for some stupid reason.
Well, you know, in the video game, when Pac-Man eats a power pellet, all of the ghosts, they turn purple or blue, yeah. And they turn that color because that means that Pac-Man can eat them. But he has to have that power pellet first. And so to just start things off, the episode just starts with Pac-Man being chased by these ghost monsters, which kind of is a throwback to the video game because that's what's going on in the video game. Pac-Man's eating pellets and the ghost monsters are just constantly trying to get him. Why they're trying to get him, I really don't know exactly. In the show, though, like we just mentioned, they kind of make it up. Wherever Pac-Man goes is where the power pellet forest is. And so if we can just get Pac-Man, we'll make him take us to the power pellet forest. So I think that must be why they're constantly chasing Pac-Man.
And also, why is there a woman ghost?
The ghosts, might as well just talk about them for a second. They're called the ghost monsters.
For some stupid reason, he calls them that.
Yeah, so the ghost monsters, might as well talk about them right now just for a little bit. You've got Pinky, Blinky, Inky, and Clyde. Yeah, and yes. Sue. And Sue is the female one. Barry Gordon voiced Inky. Chuck McCann voiced both Blinky and Pinky. And Neil Ross was the voiceover artist for Clyde. And Susan Silo, it might be Silo, S-I-L-O, voiced Sue. What's funny about the Ghost Monsters is they're total idiots. They're not very smart, are they?
Well, even though they can have holes in their pockets to go around. And also, one time when he ran in the corner, I guess it's just flashing words dead end.
One thing that was funny, too, is during this first chase to start the episode, they're trying to corner Pac-Man, and he runs into this pipe, and it shoots him straight up into the air.
Like Mario.
And yeah, it kind of reminds you of Mario. But it's funny because they shoot him straight up in the air, and then all the ghosts who are chasing him, they just all smack and run right into each other. That's the first thing. It just shows you that, you know what?
A ghost sandwich.
These ghosts are idiots. I'm not sure they're ever going to. What I also like is I like how they all have hats.
Yes.
They're like wearing hats.
Except the woman.
Except the woman one, but they're all wearing hats.
She wears earrings, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But they're all the same color as their sheet.
Somehow they have different sheets they put on.
So Pac-Man.
It must have been a bad Halloween costume.
Pac-Man comes crashing back down to Earth, and then we meet his wife. All of a sudden, we think they're about to get Pac-Man, but no, there's Miss Pac-Man right there. And for whatever reason, her nickname is Pepper. They call her Pepper. I don't know where that nickname came from. I think the cartoon writers must have just made that up.
Or just ate some pepper on something and they just decided.
Yeah, so it's a good nickname, though. You know, hey, Peppa. So he's constantly getting bailed out by Miss Pac-Man. Because at the time, I can't remember the date that Miss Pac-Man came out, the video game, but I'm sure that it was a type of deal where Miss Pac-Man was already out in video games, so they might as well give Pac-Man a wife, right? He's got to have a family. He's a family guy.
Except the baby. That should be Junior Pac-Man, but no, they made it baby.
Pac-Baby, or whatever they called it, yeah.
And then they have two pets that aren't even from a video game.
Well, and then to counteract the ghosts, Pac-Man needs what? He needs power pellets. So where does Pepper go to get power pellets?
The Pac-Snack machines.
The Pac-Snacks machines. So
and
it's like
somehow the C is an X.
Pac-Snacks, S-N-A-X. But yeah, it's just kind of sitting out there right on the road. And she just walks over there, and does she put money in it? I can't remember.
No, she just like
pulls the lever and
yeah.
So yeah, it's just like
a swap machine.
It's like a candy bar machine, just shooting out some power pellets,
like normal, like in a video game.
And
cool feature.
And when they eat those power pellets, that's when the ghosts turn blue. They turn blue. They turn yellow. And
no, they turn purple.
Or purple. I guess it's purple. Yeah. We did just watch the episode to refresh a little bit. So Pac-Man just kind of goes and he chomps them. Well, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. And when they chomp them, just like in the video game, they lose their shape, their form, and all that's left is their eyes. Their eyeballs are floating around.
That's kind of messed up when you think about it.
Well, it's kind of funny because I can imagine the writers who made the TV show, they're thinking, okay, we got this video game and it's really popular with kids. How do we make a story out of this little round thing that looks like a slice of pizza was cut out of it?
That's what I said.
You know, roaming around a maze, because that's what the video game was. So chasing ghosts, which, you know, makes no sense. And then he eats a pellet and then he's not afraid of the ghosts anymore.
Wait, pellets look exactly like him, so is he cannibalizing?
I don't think so. They kind of look like lemon drops.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I noticed about the scenery in the cartoon, too, along with just the music, the soundtrack in the background that you hear.
It's colorful.
They try to make it at least for 1982 animation styles, they try to make it as video game-like as possible. That the music is constantly kind of sounds like an arcade game. It's like, almost like sounds that you would expect to hear if you were playing Pac-Man, the arcade game, or an arcade game similar to Pac-Man. It's that type of sounds, but also, like you mentioned, there was that dead end sign blinking. It kind of reminded me of when you finish a maze in the arcade game, the thing starts blinking. So I think a lot of the design, the way that the show looked, I think they were really trying to make it look like a video game because Pac-Man was based on a video game.
And also, in the second episode, they referenced a lot of Pac-Man shapes to look exactly like the arcade game one.
Everything is...
Like the Pac pancakes.
Everything is Pac. It kind of reminds me of Smurfs. Everything's Smurfy in the Smurfs. Everything's Packy in Pac-Man. And so the ghost monsters, they get chomped. So they fail, right? So they take off. And where do they go? They go back to where their leader is. And this is kind of the first thing where the cartoon makes up one of its own characters. Because the character of Mesmeron, it's not somebody who's in the video game. There's no Mesmeron in the video game Pac-Man. And so, obviously, when you look at his mask around his face and the way that they kind of make him sound and stuff, he is kind of reminiscent of Darth Vader, isn't he? Looks like him.
He's voiced by Darth Vader, right?
No, he's voiced by a guy named Alan Lurie, according to what I found online. And I'm not sure what else Lurie voiced over. I didn't really look it up. But it's just that Star Wars had come out about 5 years earlier before that, and it was hugely popular. And the Star Wars trilogy, that first trilogy of movies. And so when you look at the mask around his mouth, you know, with the little lines going up and down on Mesmeron's mouth and the big robe, he was inspired by Darth Vader. These guys said, let's give him a bad guy. And obviously, when you look at him, it's like, well,
he has an egg-shaped head.
Yeah, there you go. That is one thing, because it makes you... I wanted to ask the question, is Mesmeron a human being? He looks human, like he's just kind of got some mask.
But he's huge.
Is he huge? Or he's around all those little pack people?
Or it is like Smurfs and Gargamel.
Right. It's like Gargamel's the only human, I think, that you ever see on Smurfs. It's like, where's the rest of the humans? Where's the rest of the humans on Pacland? Why is there one human on Pacland if Mesmeron is a human?
Or it's just toys that people play with.
I like how the ghosts monsters, to get their suits back on,
they go into a closet.
Yeah, there's like that closet that's just got a bunch of suits.
And also sometimes they make fun of it and like switch their clothes on accident.
Yeah, I mean, they're so goofy. They're played for laughs, obviously. And I remember watching this when I was a little kid, and I remember, or even just rewatching it now as an adult, I can see where it was funny, because those ghost monsters are just such moron idiots. They can't do anything right, and then, like you said, they even go into the closet.
And He-Man.
Exactly, just like the bad guys in most cartoons back then, you know. They're just bumbling fools. But yeah, so
G.I. Joe.
So yeah, so the ghost monsters go and they put their clothes back on, so that it's not just their eyes floating around anymore.
And nothing really happens. Do they run out of clothes, or did they just like respawn in there? Because they shouldn't run out of clothes by now.
Where do the clothes go when Pac-Man eats them? Does he just swallow them, or what?
Yeah, I think
they kind of just disappear. But
yeah, sometimes they just like fall down, ready to eat them. I would not eat something that probably is really like covered in dirt.
So Mesmeron, he's ticked off, of course. One of the ghosts, I don't remember which ghost monster it was, but he says, "Hey, boss, you'll never guess how he messed up this time." He's like all proud, you know.
Yeah,
he's gonna tell Mesmeron.
He's red or orange. I think he was the orange one.
Yeah, I get him confused.
They look so close.
Clyde's the one with kind of the deep voice, and
one is just
the girl is obviously the girl, but
and one of them is like scared, like really.
Yeah, one of them's kind of a scaredy one, and one of them's. But I get them all confused. Pinky, I'm assuming, is the one wearing pink. Yeah, so the Pac Force security chief is Pac-Man. We learned that, and we talked about that a little bit ago. And that's interesting, too. So Pac-Man is basically in charge of protecting these things, because that's all Mesmeron is after. That's like the power source. That's like Energon cubes and Transformers. That is what everybody wants. And in fact, I think every single episode has to do with the ghost monsters wanting to track down where that forest is. So as we're moving along...
Yellow House.
Instead of the White House, because Mesmeron or the ghost monsters, they have this plan. They're going to kidnap the Pac president.
That's why the episode's called that.
The Pac president lives in...
the Yellow House.
The Yellow House, not the White House, which was funny the first time I watched it. One thing I found kind of funny, though, is that the Pac president, he doesn't have a Pac Secret Service, it looks like. There wasn't a lot of Pac security. The ghost monsters broke in, A, pretty easily, and B, once they got into the president's office, it wasn't like there was any security guards trying to protect him. What's going on with that?
And also, Pac-Man also carries an extra balloon self. I guess he inflated, like, a balloon self in his, like, imaginary pockets.
He gets himself into the yellow house, and to rescue the president, the Pac president,
Pac-Isn't.
And so, yeah, it's funny. He gets in there and he rescues him, and then he kind of reaches into, I don't even see any pockets on Pac-Man, but he reaches somewhere and blows up a balloon that looks just like him. And of course, that tricks the ghost monsters. They do that in a lot of cartoons where the main character can just, it's like they don't have pockets or anything, but they just pull stuff out of thin air. Like they do that in Scooby-Doo a lot and other cartoons. You know how they just, whoa, I'm hungry, so they just pull out.
Oh, like He-Man's sword.
Yeah, there you go. He-Man's sword, where it's just kind of not there. You know, at least He-Man, though, is magic. You know, there's magic in that show. In this show, I don't know what it is. You got one human and a bunch of Pac people running around.
Like Smurfs. What happened if they made a movie of the Smurfs in Pac-Man?
How did you feel about Pac-Man lying? Because he lied to the ghost monsters when they had that hot air balloon take the yellow house away.
No, the yellow balloon is actually,
No, the hot air balloon.
Oh, yeah, that was
the hot air balloon takes away the yellow house.
Yeah, that was the pink ghost.
But Pac-Man said, yes, I'll take you to the power forest. So he lies. Pac-Man lies to the ghost monsters.
That's funny.
Is that good for kids to see Pac-Man lying?
No. Unless he's a slice of pizza, then we're going to eat him.
But I guess he had to do that. He had to do that because, and of course, the ghost monsters are stupid enough. They go and they touch down. They put the yellow house down.
Except the woman. She's smart.
Yeah, she's smarter. Yeah, she knows that her friendly ghost monsters are idiots. And then what happens is Pac-Man and the Pac president, I think the Pac president says, I haven't had a good chomp since the elections. You know, and they start chomping the ghost monsters. What was it, like a fake forest, it looked like? And they're like,
oh, yeah, it was fake trees.
Yeah.
And also, Mezzalon picked one up. Like, he just
yanked one up. And
like a toy.
And so, yeah, so definitely it kind of shows you the scale, meaning that Mesmeron is definitely, like, if he's human, he's a lot bigger than the Pac people, sort of like Gargamel and the Smurfs.
Maybe they're just toys. Have you ever thought of that? And he's just, like, playing.
I don't think they thought that much about it because it was obviously just something for kids.
Probably weird seeing a Pac-Man with a little human. I don't know why. I don't think it was... It's just weird.
And then just like that, the first episode's done. Because, again, there's 2 episodes inside each regular-sized episode. So it was a 30-minute show, and each episode contained 2 episodes. This first one ends, and then they probably went to commercial break, but then they had these little vignettes in the middle. And I think it was called Pac-Mania. And so you see this Pac-Mania go across the screen, and then it shows Pac-Man, he eats the letters. And it kind of reminded me of when you solved the maze on the arcade game of Pac-Man, it would have this little interstitial thing where Pac-Man would be chasing the ghosts. And that's basically what this was. It was Pac-Man chasing the ghosts just down the street or something, and then he eats them, and then that's it. And then they probably went to another commercial break, and then they came back for the next episode, which was called Picnic in Pacland. So Picnic in Pacland is the second little episode.
We'd have vacation.
So it must, I think the whole thing probably runs about, without commercials, probably around 24 minutes. So split that in half. You got about 11 or 12 minutes per episode, probably how these things broke down. And there was a lot of cartoons back in those days that had multiple episodes within its 30-minute time slot, that sort of thing. And even some cartoons, like the Scooby-Doo cartoons, by the time they made the 80s, they were doing multiple episodes within the 30-minute time frame that they had. So I thought that Pac-Man's car sounds like an electric car.
No, it sounds like the thing from the Jetsons.
Right? It kind of does, but that's the thing. The Jetsons car sounds futuristic, which means to me like an electric car, like a Prius. Or something like this, you know, instead of like a gas car, like a regular car. It just kind of, you know, just that sort of thing.
80s cars.
And so I was thinking, well, maybe Pac-Man had an electric car. I don't know. But I thought that was funny because that's what it sounded like to me.
And plus it looked like eggs.
Yeah, the car's oval shaped. And again, everything's shaped round. And so even the car looks like a little round shaped minivan. And then this is where we learn that they have a Pac dog and a Pac cat. And this episode, a lot of this episode is where you get to see Chomp Chomp, the dog.
And Sourpuss.
And Sourpuss, the cat.
Which is a candy.
And that's right, Sourpuss is a candy too.
Ooh.
Not in this episode. But yeah, and so Sourpuss is constantly trying to
Kill the dog or something.
kind of do something mean to Chomp the dog all the time.
But nothing works.
Yeah, and nothing ever works. Sourpuss always ends up getting foiled by the dog, but it's almost on accident. It's like
Then the cat gets it.
Yeah, then the cat just kind of gets hurt or something, and it happens all through the episode. So this episode is a lot about Chomp and Sourpuss.
Just like the other person.
Do you notice that everything they eat is power pellet based?
Yes.
Like power pellet pancakes, power pellet
quick thing about that.
barbecued pellet burgers.
Okay, I can finally tell you. Pac-Man pancakes and the ghosts' picnics, as they said, looks like the real thing, and it looks like the actual game Pac-Man from the arcade game.
And the ghost monsters are eating those, right? The Pac pancakes?
Yeah.
And I think Pac-Man and Pepper, they're eating like barbecued Pac burgers. or something, or or power pellet burgers, or something like that. And I like their barbecuer. Their barbecuer is also round, and it looked just like a little mini Pac-Man.
Oh, so Pac-Man puts the dog in a basket. Animal cruelty.
Well, it's like a travel case.
No, he said, I'm going to teach you a lesson, and just grabbed the dog and just shoved it in the basket.
Animal cruelty, wasn't it? Poor Chomp. There you go. Well, the episode kind of highlights the cat being mean to the dog.
Because it's sour.
My favorite one is where Sourpuss, the cat, tries to wrap that anchor when Pac-Man's on the boat, which is called Pepper, by the way.
Oh, and also...
But he tries to wrap that anchor around Chomp, and it like slips off Chomp and wraps around the cat and pulls the cat into the ocean or into the
Okay, and then
water.
since we're talking about the boat now, the lake they're in looks like the video game Pac-Man.
What does?
The lake that they're in looks like a video game Pac-Man.
See, I didn't even notice that. It's shaped like Pac-Man?
Yeah, see, many things reference to the old one.
That's right. And so, well, there you go. The style, the design of the show.
Okay.
Everything is designed to look round and look like Pac-Man, yeah.
But except the only thing that doesn't really, well, it kind of does, but like it's not really named after Pac. They call it the shark, not just Impact Jaws, but they never called it Pac Shark. They just called it Shark.
I think Pac-Man at some point in the show, he said something like, "What is that, Pac Jaws?"
Yes.
Because it's just this big shark. But what's funny is the shark is shaped like a circle too,
and it's
like a circle with a fin hanging off the back of it.
But it's also they're idiots and. They should have checked if there's a giant shark in the pool, so they put a shark hat on one of the person and they gone underwater.
I kind of like too how they're the Pac-Man's got that frisbee. You know, they're playing frisbee.
Yeah, he has two of them in his pockets.
And the ghost monsters, when it flies into those ghost monsters
flying saucer.
are such idiots. That's a flying saucer.
Oh, that's a joke, by the way, because they like saucers a thing they use for cooking.
What I thought was funny was Sue, the female ghost monster. She's like, "You silly jerks! It's a frisbee," because she's like the only smart one out of the ghosts.
Yes. She should be elected for the best.
And
they should just clone her.
And again, I think right there too is when I noticed how the outfits of the ghost monsters are hilarious because the
hats.
Yeah, they have hats, but they're all the exact same color as what they're wearing. The hats and the
except their eyeballs,
like earrings on Sue and stuff like that. It's just they've got these accessories, but all they are really just shapes colored the exact same. And then we see Pac Baby. Pac Baby's there, so Pac Baby doesn't do a lot in this episode, but it basically just looks exactly like Pac-Man, only with a little
letter tint and
I think Pac Baby's a boy.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But I remember watching it originally and not knowing, thinking, is Pac Baby a boy or a girl? I don't know. It was wearing blue. Its little accessories were blue, which I guess maybe makes it a boy. But later on in the series at some point, I think it was referred to as being a boy. So, because I guess Pac Baby's a boy.
It makes no sense.
This whole little episode, I mean, it's just silliness. Basically, Pac-Man and his family, they're on a picnic. They're trying to have a picnic, and the ghost monsters keep trying to foul it up.
Okay, and there's one time when they float a kite. Now, this is a really good thing. So, when the ghosts can become anything, so they became a kite, but 4 of them become a little kite. So there's 4 colors. Then when the flag drops from the lightning, when it falls down, it was black, and then it turns to just yellow. like Pac-Man.
They called it, I think, limited animation. It just means that they had all these pre-made backgrounds, and then to keep the cost down, they didn't have a lot of movement with the characters, and they didn't have a lot of variety in the colors with the animations. I think that's kind of what you saw there. It's like during the last couple of frames of the kites falling or whatever, the color just kind of went out of it.
It just turns yellow.
Yeah, all that detail, they didn't want to mess with it, you know. Again, it's limited animation, which a lot of people make fun of. But, I mean, that's just how things were done back then. That's how they were able to crank out tons of episodes of all these cartoons, because they couldn't make them with as many frames and with the, you know, the type of resolution that they were making a lot of the other cartoons with. How'd you like the Pac Ants and the Pac Ant Hill?
Oh, yeah. It's hilarious because they're so dumb. It's like, where is he? And then he just led it to them.
Yeah. The ghost monsters, they tried to make like a honey trail or something.
Yeah.
To make the ants like these Pac ants. And again, of course, the ants are shaped.
Pac termites, because they itch people or something like that.
Yeah, whatever it was, but then they come out of that little anthill thing, but they make their way back to the ghost. The ghost they basically draw the line of the honey from themselves back to themselves. Right? Is that what happens?
They went this way, the right.
Which way is that? To your right?
Yeah, and then they went back to the left, and they made a trail which led to them because they're idiots.
Gotcha. That's right. Okay. I think I looked down to write some notes, but when I looked back up, the Pac ants or termites or whatever they were actually ended up getting the ghost monsters and not Pac-Man. So somehow they screwed that up, like they screw everything up, because they're not very freaking smart, are they?
Maybe the woman should just do all the work.
One thing, just keep Sue in charge. But speaking of being in charge, who's not in this episode?
Oh, yeah, the main master.
Mesmeron. I don't think Mesmeron's in this episode.
Also known as Egg-Faced Darth Vader.
There you go. That's right. So,
or Pac Vader, whatever.
So yeah, that's right. And so yeah, I don't think I think the ghost monsters probably just work independent of Mesmeron. They're always out trying to get Pac-Man. The goal is to get Pac-Man so that they can tell their boss. So I guess you don't have to see Mesmeron in each episode. I like at the end when they're playing checkers, or I guess it's chess.
Oh, and then like I guess everything can eat anything. So like they put this like weird like tiny video game Pac-Man because it's from the video game. And then it like moved up and then like swiped down and ate all of his things.
Yeah, kind of just moves across the board on its own. But instead of saying checkmate, they say Pac-Mate. You know, when they're playing, because in chess it's called a checkmate, but in the Pac-Man version of chess, apparently it's Pac-Mate. So
much Pacs in this. Warning: this episode has a lot of the word Pac in it.
The funny part at the end, just to prove that the ghost monsters are complete and total idiots.
Sue was the only one there.
They all have like bandages and casts on their arms and stuff, because
it's like we got them good.
And I like it because one of the ghost monsters says, "We sure messed up their picnic." And then the other one says, "You can say that again." And so he says it again. "We sure messed up their picnic."
Like,
Shut up. I heard you the first time. You know, they're just such idiots. But it's funny. It's hilarious. Don't you find it funny?
I think they have a brain that's the size of a peanut.
Did they say that?
No, I wish.
Well,
but I think they do.
But that's about what they do. They barely have any brain.
If they're just, I don't think any of them has a brain because they're just eyes. Except Sue. I don't know how to. Maybe she has brains in her eyes. I don't know.
That's basically Pac-Man, the Hanna-Barbera version of Pac-Man, trying to get in on that.
The very first episode.
The very first episode of Pac-Man.
The first season.
Of the first season, September 25th, 1982. And as far as Pac-Man goes, the show's initial success inspired ABC's rival CBS, the other channel, to create Saturday Supercade, which featured other video game characters from the golden age of those video arcade games. The arcade game called Pacland, which I remember it came out later, was actually based entirely on the cartoon. So the cartoon actually ended up spawning its own kind of video game called Pacland that wasn't like the first video game Pac-Man. It was more like Super Mario Brothers, I think, where Pac-Man's going left to right, doing stuff on the screen. And Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures, drew a lot of influence from the Pac-Man cartoon as well. Also, the Tengen release of the original Pac-Man arcade game for the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I played it.
It had box art that was based on the cartoon. So the Hanna-Barbera created characters from the Pac-Man cartoon.
Wait, did they make Ninja Turtles?
You still wound up... I don't remember who did Ninja Turtles, actually, which company. We'll have to get to that later.
That'll be a good one to do.
The Hanna-Barbera created Pac-Man wound up popping up in video games and in artwork and in other stuff. So the cartoon kind of ended up having a loyal following of its own and influenced a lot of stuff, even though it itself was based on the video game that came before it, which actually wasn't even... I don't even think it started in the United States. I think the video game originally came from Japan or something like that and was actually called something else.
Pacoja. No, something.
Yeah, it was something. I read about it. Now I can't remember. And, again, that's another show for another time. So how did you feel about Pac-Man? You like the show?
Now ask me more questions.
You're 10 years old, so I was younger than you when I originally watched Pac-Man. How would you feel if you were, say, 6 years old, getting up early for Saturday morning cartoon? Because remember, this is before the internet. This was before before Cartoon Network. There wasn't a channel that just had all cartoons. You basically had to watch cartoons for the most part on Saturday mornings. Is this something you would watch?
Yes, with He-Man and Transformers. J. Joe.
A lot of those came around the same time. Those are like weekday afternoon shows. But this was kind of but that was right around the time when afternoon shows started taking off and became popular. It was fun. In fact, this Pac-Man actually aired as the Pac-Man Little Rascals Richie Rich Show hour sort of thing in the 82-83 season. In the second season, it was the Pac-Man Rubik the Amazing Cube Hour. So they kind of packaged it with some other cartoons when it originally aired. So it was its own cartoon, but they kind of packaged it as like being a part of this 3 cartoon set when it originally aired.
Witchy Witch. I love Witchy Witch.
So hey, that's Pac-Man by Hanna-Barbera. One of the greatest cartoon studios ever. They had so much stuff, so much fun stuff.
They created many shows.
And
60s, 70s, and 80s, I think.
So here's the thing. Check us out, drunktvpodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Stitcher. Check out our iTunes channel. You can get us on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to get back to regular TV shows next week. And Wesley, we're going to have you back in a month. So at the end of each month, we'll try to do one of these short cartoon podcasts where we talk about vintage cartoons. So get at us on Facebook. Leave us a comment. Leave us a like. Facebook.com/drunktv.
This has been the Juice Box Edition.
That's right. And Juice Box Edition, the last Wednesday of every month. That's sort of the plan. It may not work out that way every single time if we fall behind or something, but that's the plan for now, to hopefully have Wesley back so we can get that kid angle, get that kid perspective on what we're talking about. The next Juice Box we're hoping to do is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Are you excited about that?
Yes.
That's going to be a good one. Everybody remembers He-Man because it's so popular even still.
I like the toys.
So there you go. Pac-Man, Hanna-Barbera, Drunk TV Podcast. So Wes, we're going to have you back in a month.
Yeah.
And next week, Dell will be back and we're going to have another episode. So thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
On Juice Box Edition with me on it.